Welcome to the brand new podcast coming to you. My name is Justin Davis. I will be the host of this wonderful show, and I'm going to be joined by two people I think you know. The first one I'm going to introduce is from Ad Free Shows fame, one of the very few top gals in the group. And I just want to say hello to the very lovely Miss Amy Vaughn, Kentucky's very best. And I'm not talking about the cigarettes. How are you, Amy?
I am wonderful, Justin. How are you doing tonight?
I am good. I'm glad to be here with you and some other guy that's on this show. I figure we should introduce him because I think the name of this show is named after him here on the Pondwater Dave show, one of his many aliases that he goes by because he is wanted in many states. Pondwater Dave, Mr. Dave Miller, the man that counted the Ric Flair's last match. We think it is, maybe. Dave, how are you?
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Don't think I wasn't panicking when I saw FTR with a mystery opponent against Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah,
for his last match.
Yeah, I think Rick's already itching with that. He's
thinking,
jealous
man,
he's not in it.
God, I hope that Rick's not the guy. Don't take that away from me. It's all I got.
Don't take it. It's all I got.
Oh,
but
please.
So we're going to have a few different segments on the show. And we're going to start off, I believe, with just kind of throwing it around and shooting the shit. So, Dave, any goose attacks going on this week? How are things down in good old Mississippi?
No goose attacks, but I did get attacked by a box of nabs this morning.
Ooh.
Oh, no.
I stacked my stuff too high and I pulled it back and the box came flying off and hit my glasses.
Well,
and I was wearing a crimson mask in Dollar General. I had them.
Oh, hey, you got juice at work today.
Hard weighed by a box of nabs.
You can go ahead and tell the truth here. We know Stephanie probably knocked you the fuck out, but that's a whole different story.
Rough sex.
Rough sex. Well, we can go with that too.
100%.
Foreplay of some type. There's the Punisher right there.
Pilot episode and already had a run in.
Hey,
I like
it. Didn't take long.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Amy. Hey, Justin.
Hello. Hello.
One F-bomb and one run in. We're off and running, guys.
So much for PG-13. We'll work on that.
Amy, anything going on in the great Commonwealth of Kentucky this week?
No, nothing exciting, which we're always, actually, you know what? That's not true. At my alma mater and where my daughter goes to school, Murray State, they have homecoming this weekend. And Olivia is the homecoming chair of her sorority. So she's got a lot of responsibilities this weekend. So we will be heading over there to see her and see all the alumni that could come back in.
I would figure a lot of pictures are going to be taken this weekend on Amy Vaughn's iPhone.
Yes. So I'm sure on Twitter, Facebook, you all will be seeing all the fun times that we'll be having. So I'm awful proud of her. So
both of Amy's children are two of the smartest kids I have ever met. And the little one, Aaron, is a little savant. I know that he is a genius with the Rubik's Cube. To me, he seems like one of those kids, Amy, that's always got a question for you.
Oh, Lord, yes. Yes. He was at the dentist today and wanted to know how much everything costs. Every time they use something, how much did that cost? And she's like, I don't pay for this. I just use it. And so it was just like, what are you going to do with that info, Aaron? He doesn't know. He just wants to know.
He's a curious dude. That's the one thing. I like. You know what? That's a good thing.
Yes, it is. It is.
And what grade's he in now? Like 8th?
7th.
7th. Okay, I'm going one ahead. But
your kids look much younger than they are.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, Aaron will be 13 in December, and Olivia's 21.
And Aaron just finished up football season, I assume.
Yes, he did. They had a winning season. They were 5-3, made it to the semifinals of district play.
There you go.
And be looking to see what we can do next year. So.
Well, over here in good old Huntington, West Virginia, I am kind of on a sabbatical from my second job, which is refereeing high school sports. So that starts up again with basketball. Next Saturday is my first basketball game. So Pondwater Dave is not the only referee on this show. Amy, we're gonna have to get you to referee something one of these days so we can just have all three of us into it.
But it's scripted. When I suck, it's scripted.
That's true.
We were at a basketball game last night, and you were under the distinct impression that the referees were scared to call anything on the other team.
Oh my.
Well, Pondwater, yours is scripted. I shoot suck, so there's that.
Oh,
I was going to say
that's a T-shirt.
I ref my kids fighting.
If you know, you know.
So you know.
Yeah, you do referee your kids trying to beat the hell out of each other, probably a lot.
So you know that's I think all moms probably have those strikes.
Yep. So our next segment that we're gonna kind of do each week is we're gonna do a little show and tell. And if you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, you can also pick this up in video form. So when we do our show and tell here on the show, you will be able to see what we are talking about. And I think our faithful leader here, Pondwater Dave, has something to show the group.
I would like to, for this show and tell, I'm going to go with my a little background. I'm a belt collector. Been collecting belts since 1999, 98. I mean, it's when they became available, I started getting them. Learned about Reggie Parks.
How you met Conrad, right? That's how you met Conrad.
Yeah, me and Conrad became friends because, I mean, just of years of being in the same belt group.
Yeah.
Just common interest is what started our group chat. But I'm going to start with my very favorite belt of all time, the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, the 10 pounds of gold.
Look at that, shining like a.
This is not a ring used version. It's a replica made by Dave Milliken.
Oh, that's so nice.
Anybody knows anything about belt makers? Milliken is one of the best on earth that you can get a belt made by.
Right now, I'd say that there's the two best out there would probably be Dave Milliken and Ron Edwardson.
And Dave was, of course, the right-hand understudy of the great Reggie Parks.
Yes.
Hey, Reg, if you wanted to try me, why didn't you try me?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you, Reggie, the thing about Dave and Reggie, Dave would make a belt. If you called Dave and said, hey, Dave, I want a winged eagle, and I want it with the same leather that Ric Flair had it on, then Dave is a belt mark like us, and Dave knows all the details of each belt. I mean, he knows each style. But Reggie didn't do it change. Reggie did things because that's the mood he was in that day. So you would never get the same leather job twice from Reggie. He couldn't be specific, because if he did something, that's because how he wanted it that day. He wanted to try something different, use a different stamp, use a different tool. He kept it loose. So that's why you'll look and there'll be different cuts. I mean, the leather cut might be different with one wrestler. There may be tooling, there may not be tooling. You might have one that's like, you look at just as an example of the time, you look at the world class American Heavyweight Championship that's the same style as the NWA World Television Championship. The world class version has lacing around the leather. The NWA television belt doesn't.
You know what always fascinates me with Reggie Parks' belts too, and not a lot of people know, but Reggie was the first guy to start put back leather on the back of it, so that the bolts wouldn't show on the back. That back leather. And what I always like to look at on his back leather is just the little designs that would always be different that he would kind of do on that back leather.
Yes, just a black backing. And the reason that Reggie started making belts is he was a tag team champion, and they had trophies, and he had to travel with the trophies. So he asked the promoter.
Where was he a tag team champion? I'm sorry. What territory?
Chicago area, I believe, Midwest,
AWA
AWA area.
I know he worked for Mr. Hart some too, I believe, right?
Oh yes, he worked. I've got a program somewhere that he came through Texas, and he'd do these feats of strength where they would do it like a Volkswagen van, and they'd jack it up, and then they'd let it down on his abs.
Ugh.
I mean, he'd do those kind of feats of strength. The man was incredible shape. I met him in 2005, and man, he was just. I mean, he was a presence. He was a huge man.
Where'd you meet him? How'd you get to meet him?
He was at a wrestling convention called Wrestle Reunion. It was when wrestling meeting conventions were new, and he was working with Ed Schumann, who was promoter of NWA Midwest, who was bigwig with the NWA at the time, and he handled, like, you call Ed and you tell him I want a belt from Dave or I want a belt from Reggie, and you went through Ed, and Ed took your order and handled it, and I really liked Ed Schumann, and I mean I got to. He never would just take your order and get you off the phone. He'd visit with you for a while. I mean, talk wrestling. He's just a great guy. But anyway, they had a table at Wrestle Reunion, and so I got to meet Reggie and hang out with Dave. Watched a pay-per-view that weekend with Dave at a bar. It's funny what you remember when you get to talking.
I know.
But anyway, Reggie was tag team champion, and he didn't want to carry the tag. I mean, he didn't want to carry this huge trophy. So he asked the promoter, could he make the belts? Well, here's where the problem came in: is they went into the AWA as the tag team champions for their area, and the AWA tag team champions said, we're not going to wear our belts to the ring if you're going to wear yours to the ring, because that's how much better Reggie's belts were than their belts. So then Reggie started making belts for the territories.
Did Reggie have any kind of background in leather, or that was just something that he liked?
It was a craft he knew how to do.
Cool.
And
you just never know where things are going to take you. You know.
I mean, but that was so fascinating that he did such a good job that the World Tag Team Champions didn't want to wear their belts if they were going to wear theirs, so they had to leave their belts in the back. And and then Reggie, I mean, you can tell, you know, the period he'd make a belt. If he had made a belt this style for world class, then the Louisiana belt was a 7-plate. Mississippi belt was a 5-plate. The Southern Championship was a 5-plate, and then there was a 7-plate version for the AWA Southern in Tennessee. But they'd all basically be, the Florida belt was that style. The World Tag Team belts for Crockett, they do them and he'd have that one style of belt. And then in the 80s, he came up with that tag belt that you'd see, like the Mid-South tag, the WWF tags that Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda had at WrestleMania in the first at WrestleMania. The United States, the 10 pounds of silver is in that style. But then that was the flavor of the week. And then he started getting into, I mean, then he started making some of the WWF belts. He made the Intercontinental, the one that were the famous one, you know,
Eagle.
with Ricky Steamboat, and you know, Tito was, they gave that belt to Tito Santana first, and then he made the Winged
tag
Eagle, belts,
right? Yeah, he made the Winged Eagle as well,
and the Winged Eagle, which is I mean, when you think Reggie Parks, that's the one that he's most associated with.
Yeah. Let's talk about the one that you're showing us today, the 10
Good
pounds
idea.
of gold. That 10 pounds of gold belt, aka the domed globe version of this championship belt, debuted on July 20th of 1973, having been first presented to Harley Race by then NWA champion Sam Mushnick. So, Dave, you probably were at that match. You're old enough in 1970.
No, but it was made in Mexico by a Mexican jeweler named Manuel Sabala. I don't know if I butchered it up, but you're right. It was in 73, and the first version did not come like this. The first version was on red velvet. It was a red velvet version, They presented it to Harley Race, who promptly lost it to Jack Briscoe.
Oh.
So
when did it change over to
The big gold.
Oh, talking about
Yeah.
when he went to the.
when did it go to the leather? I'm sorry.
Oh,
Maybe it might have lasted a year. The velvet didn't hold up to the sweat and oil.
Sure. So they just kind of had to redesign or have it redesigned
Yeah, and then
because of that.
and somebody re-leathered it, and
so the 10 pounds of gold would last. We said 73, and it would last until 1986, I believe, February 14th, 1986, when they debuted the big gold. Is that correct, Dave?
that's correct.
So we had about a 13-year run here with the 10 pounds of gold, and it's very, I mean, people like Ric Flair and those old school guys, I think even Tony Schiavone, those guys would point to the 10 pounds of gold as what they recognize as the belt still to this day.
And it's not for the appearance.
Right.
I mean, that belt was beat to hell, and it's not made like your traditional belts. I mean, it's actually got stacked pieces. I believe 73, 78 pieces.
Oh my God.
Individually. I mean, and a lot of it has fallen off over the years. I mean,
Sure.
that thing had some miles on it, because it wasn't like they didn't leave it in the gorilla position, and when they come back through, it wasn't a television version. It was on the road with Flair. It was on the road with Race. I mean, you know, they weren't. I mean, they weren't weepy about them. They weren't sentimental over these. They I mean, it was what they had. It was what they did business with. So they weren't gentle with it.
You know, not very many people know this fact about the 10 pounds of gold either, but that is also what Conrad Thompson calls his low-key big hog. 10 pounds of gold.
Without a doubt. And I think he's shaving a couple pounds off, but who doesn't like it? Anyway, so that belt's retired. It was brought back.
Why did they retire that belt? Like, is that just I mean, I know that a lot of times you do want to change up the design and, do something like that, but that was a long time. What'd you say,
Well,
13 years?
Yeah, Crockett one. I mean, it was in horrible shape, and the newer belts were coming out, and they were really nice belts. Then you also had the AWA had a huge belt.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Mid-South, Bill Watts went and had one even bigger.
Right.
And then Crockett was going to do his own thing, so he made sure that the NWA logo was not on the big gold. So after they retired that, the NWA went back to the 10 pounds of gold design, which they currently still use today.
Yes, Trevor Murdoch is the current holder of the 10 pounds of gold, I believe, for the NWA current formation.
He's fixing to defend it in a three-way against Tyrus, who some of y'all may know as Brodus Clay, the former Brodus Clay, and Matt Cardona, the former Zack Ryder.
Mm-hmm.
Cardona's a former champion, got hurt. He surrendered the title to Billy Corgan. Now he's back he's getting his rematch. Tyrus got interjected into it because what they've done with the television championship in the NWA is after you defend it 7 times, it's kind of a money in the bank concept at that point. If you can defend it successfully 7 times, you can surrender the belt and get a title shot for the world title.
I did not know that.
And Tyrus held it for a long time, more than 7 defenses, and then finally decided, hey, I want in, and it's going to be a 3-way now.
I will say, I think Nick Aldis looks best with that belt. That's just my opinion.
Well,
I think
modern day.
J.C. Flair would agree with you on that.
Nick Aldis looks like a champion. He conducts himself like a champion. He dresses like a champion. Yes, I wholeheartedly agree that, anybody that's not named Ric Flair or Jeff Jarrett, that he looks good on that belt.
Yes,
Well, like I said, if you're watching the video version, if you're just listening, you should really check out the video version, because Dave is going to show us some really cool stuff each week. And that was a very beautiful 10 pounds of gold that he's got there that's all shined up. And if you're watching the video, you can see there's all kinds of shit behind him that you're going to end up taking a look at here pretty soon too.
And I would like to point out, the back of my belt signed. I let former champions sign my belt.
Yeah.
And down here, we have Harley Race.
Wow.
There, you can see it. Harley Race.
Looks like Wildfire Tommy Rich.
Well, oh yeah, I wasn't paying attention, and he grabbed the middle.
Somebody say they want my autograph.
Dan the Beast Severn, Jeff Jarrett, Tim Storm, Jax Dane, who I had the privilege of actually refereeing an NWA World Title match with. One of my proudest moments, and was my proudest moment until recently, was standing in the ring holding this up.
Yeah.
Holding one of these up. So that's the belt that it's my favorite belt, and it's not because of the appearance, it's because of the meaning.
Yeah.
And the match we're going to watch today.
Yeah, before you go into that, I was going to introduce that real quick. So each week, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of take something, whatever the show and tell piece is of the show. We're then going to watch something. I don't think we're ever going to watch the Bret Hart Shawn Michaels match from WrestleMania 12 and do an hour long, but we're going to try and watch something each week that is involved with the piece that Dave is showing us. So on this week's episode, we are going to watch World Class Championship Wrestling Season 3, Episode 20, if you want to whip out your cock, and that's going to be May 19th, 1984. And Dave, what match are we going to be watching here?
Sorry, when you said that, that went down the hallway, and my wife had no idea what you're talking about.
Did she come running or did she stay back?
She probably ran the other way, I would guess.
What kind of podcast are you doing? So that's the Peacock app, dear. I'm sorry, I got off the track there.
So what match are we going to watch here?
We're going to watch Kerry Von Erich and Ric Flair. May 6th, 1984, from Texas Stadium. Former home of the Dallas Cowboys. It's no longer there. They've moved to Arlington, Texas.
They built a place that's a little bit nicer.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit bigger.
But Texas Stadium.
Were you here at this match?
I was there.
Okay.
Really? Where were you sitting? Like when we're looking at the ring, where would I be looking to see a Pondwater sitting?
I was on the hard camera side.
Okay.
I looked trying to figure it out because I was thinking I was on across from hard camera, but I wasn't. If we're looking right now at the ring at 6, and that's looking down the clock at 6 o'clock,
mm-hmm.
and and the hard camera's at 12. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of over at maybe 10 o'clock.
So are you up in the stands? Or are you?
I'm in the lower bowl, about halfway up. Probably 25, 30 yard line.
Okay. So our timestamp here for everybody too that's going to watch along, like I said, it is World Class Championship Wrestling. It is in the territories little button there on your WWE Peacock. You go to that, go to WCCW Season 3, Episode 20, May 19th, 1984, and the time code will be 7 minutes and 25 seconds. And so we are there. We're all synced up. And Dave, you're the master of this show. So go ahead and count us down.
Well, I'm a referee, so I have to count up. So instead of 3, 2, 1 play, it's going to be 1, 2, 3 play.
Okay.
So 1, 2, 3 play.
So let me get this straight, because I know that David passed away in February of this year, right?
This was going to be David's title shot.
Yes. Now, okay, was that already set that this event was going to have David versus Ric Flair, or did that come after he passed and we were going to have do you see what I'm saying? Like,
they just had a match in Fort Worth, in Fort Worth at a big, kind of a Star Wars show in January of 84.
Mm-hmm.
And Ric Flair wrestled Mike Von Erich in a 10-minute match.
He wrestled Mike, you said?
Yes, and the stipulation was, because Rick had said something about Mike, and David said that, I don't know, Mike, because Rick said Mike couldn't last 10 minutes with me. And David said Mike probably can not only last 10 minutes with you, he could probably beat you. So the stipulation was if he could go 10 minutes, with Flair, then David got his match, and David got to pick the stipulation.
Okay.
And if Flair beat Mike, it could beat Mike in 10 minutes, David would never challenge for the NWA Championship as long as Flair was champion.
Okay. So obviously Mike won.
So, well, it was a 10-minute draw.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So we just
So-
saw the
Flair made Mike look really good in that match.
Cool.
well, and that was hard to do, I think, right?
Well, Mike had only started wrestling at Thanksgiving of '83, so he'd only been in wrestling for a couple months.
We just saw the
Was he
Nature
like
Boy.
19
Now,
years old?
Now, what we just saw with Kerry coming out of the tunnel, before he came out of the tunnel, first, let me say that this music that they're using for Kerry was not his music, and every bad thing that's happening to Vince McMahon right now is justified for as bad as this music is that Kerry's coming to the ring. But Kerry would come to the ring
Oh,
with Rush's Tom Sawyer,
yeah.
Yeah.
and
Modern day warrior.
So the music hit. Modern day warrior, a mean stride. Today, Tom Sawyer, a mean. Dun-dun. And then the music stopped.
Oh, okay.
And there was silence, and the crowd was anticipating. And then Tanya Tucker's, When I Die, I may not go to heaven. So, because David would come to the ring with Texas When I Die.
Right.
So Kerry came out to Texas When I Die. Whoever did the music for this that redubbed it just found a woman singing a country song about Texas.
Yeah.
I got you.
I always have that same feeling when I watch the new Peacock version of Rick Rude's music. I hate it so much because I love Rick Rude's old music. So anyways, we saw the Nature Boy come out here in his baby blue robe. Amy, what do you think about that?
You know what? I'm not a huge fan. I don't like it zipping down.
Yeah, it's
I
not
don't
one
know
of
if
my
it just-
favorites either.
This is early, and I don't believe that's Olivia Walker. I believe that's a Karen McDaniel robe.
Mm-hmm.
Wahoo's widow.
Right. It's very beautiful. I just
yeah.
don't like the zip, you know.
I'm not a big fan of that robe myself. And then over on the other side, we have Kerry in looks
Good
like a
shot of the belt.
bright blue velvet half robe. It only goes to his waist, and that's a unique look. But he's got the yellow
his mother
memory of
actually made
David
that
there on the
robe.
back. Okay,
Mother did?
His mother actually made that robe.
that makes sense since we see in memory of David and the yellow rose of Texas on the
Do you
back
know
of
who
it.
has that robe now?
I do know who has that robe. A good friend of mine that lives in southern Louisiana owns it.
So I just saw Ric Flair point in Kerry's face, and Rick's finger was taped twice. I wonder why that is.
Not in this match, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no.
The
I
Manning,
think Dave, you know, it's funny because why is Dave Manning wearing red?
he used to do that. He's wearing
He
Adidas.
used to wear red?
He'd wear red. He'd wear white. He used to wear. I mean, he would change up his gear. Adidas shirts at the time, you could get the black pants, the matching, and it wasn't so much a sweatpant as it was like
Stretch,
just
like
a pair of pants.
Yeah.
And it would have the
Like a
three
yoga
white.
pant.
Because I had the blue ones with the white stripe, the black one with the white stripes, and then
Yeah.
you get the shirt, and it'd be just a black T-shirt with the Adidas logo and the white stripes down the. Because he'd use that to referee the black and white.
Yeah.
But David Manning always wore something different. Bronco was always in the stripes. But
Well, we
David
see-
Manning, sometimes he'd wear a T-shirt that just said World Class on the back of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Rick Hazard did too sometimes.
We see
That wasn't
Kerry,
uncommon for the time period.
we see Kerry here in his yellow tights, but he's got blue stripes on each side. I don't remember him wearing a lot of stripes in his
Those tights belonged to David.
Oh, okay.
David started wearing those tights after Labor Day of '83, following the gorgeous Jimmy Garvin feud.
Hey,
He
we
gave-
just saw one. We just saw one of the earliest ever crowd signs, and
Yeah.
it said Ric Flair thinks he's cool, but Kerry Von Erich rules. So
Yeah.
how about that?
I like it.
Then later on, signs would progress into "Show me your tits" during the Attitude Era. So
Yeah, there you go. But back to what I was saying about those tights. the tights that he wore before that were black. They had black stripes and they were yellow with black stripe, and those tights actually hang on my wall.
Yes, and that I'm sure will be a part of show and tell here.
No,
One of these.
We got to figure out how to move the computer over there because
touched.
the frame's like 45 inches wide and it's
Bigger. It's bigger than Pondwater.
It's mounted on the wall. Kerry's in control of this match. I mean, you can just feel it in the air that this is Kerry's day. And you're wondering. I mean, none of us, we kind of knew, but we didn't know. Because how's Flair going to escape? Because he can't get disqualified. If he gets disqualified, he loses the belt. That was David's stipulation, and Kerry got David's stipulation.
Gotcha.
They also introduced Flair from Minneapolis, Minnesota. This was before he'd started hailing from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that.
He hadn't moved there yet.
I'd like to point out that the stadium was a miserable place to watch any sporting event or concert. In the summertime, it was a heater, and in the wintertime, it was a freezer.
Oh God!
I've heard that. I've heard that.
One event in my whole life that I went to at that stadium was I comfortable, completely comfortable. I went to see Garth Brooks, and my seats were right above an entrance into the lower bowl, right below a suite. So they had the window open in the suite, and it was pulling the air conditioner out. Air conditioning was coming right out on top of me. So that was the only time, and I went to see a lot of stuff at Texas Stadium.
How was the parking here, Dave? Where did you have to park there?
Right outside the stadium. Had a huge parking lot.
They just had a big parking lot outside.
A big parking lot. Actually, when there wasn't events going on at Texas Stadium, the parking lot was also a drive-in movie. They had drive-in movie screens, and people would go to the movies there. When drive-in movies were a thing, on the parking lot of Texas Stadium.
Now, if you had a big crowd, was getting in and out tough, or was it pretty much easy to get in and out of as far as traffic goes?
It was traffic. It was. Yeah. I mean, it's actually much better at the new stadium getting in and out of the area.
How many people do you think are here?
They're saying 43,000.
Okay.
There's every bit of 35.
Okay. That's still a nice crowd.
You can see people sitting way up in those top sections,
I believe,
and they're not bare up there.
I mean, for a football game, I believe attendance for that stadium was like 65,000.
Right.
They moved this out to about the 40-yard line. The ring was around the 40. In most of their events at Texas Stadium, when Fritz retired, the ring was in the end zone.
Yeah.
I mean, this was huge.
Now,
sure.
And it was hot. It was hotter than hell in there that day.
Were the ropes? Did they always have the red ropes and the red ring skirt, or did they switch that up?
No, it was. Eventually, it went to a red, white, and blue rope.
Okay.
The red, white, and blue ropes, but they had the red ring skirt with world class on it. It's obviously Kevin trying to put the claw on somebody, and I can't remember who it was. It was not Kabuki. Might have been Pac's son, maybe. It was an Oriental wrestler.
Pac's son. I felt like that was a drink or something when I was a kid.
I think that was
that was his cousin
store.
Capri.
Oh, that's right. It was a clothing store.
Clothing store.
Flair threw Kerry out, and Kerry bounced right back up.
Yep, he did not sell that for shit. He sold that like Goldberg.
This is a relatively short match for Kerry and Flair.
Yeah.
How many times have they wrestled each other? Do you know?
Oh God, there ain't no telling how many times. I mean,
all over the place.
They went around the horn, and Bill Watts used to send them around the horn for Mid-South. Because I have a friend here in Mississippi that told me that he went and saw Kerry Von Erich and Ric Flair at the Coliseum in Jackson on a Mid-South card.
You know what kills me about Rick's get up here? He's got on 3 shades of blue, from his boots to his shin guard, his knee pads to his tights. He's got 3 different colors blue on there.
Kelly's on the road. He's just putting it all together.
Yeah.
And I think the match is going quicker because it is extremely hot out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the sun's beating down on the ring because there is a hole in the roof of Texas Stadium because God wanted to watch his team play. Uh,
I'm just gonna let that one roll.
I was just say Elker, I would like that.
well, I mean, Tom Landry was still the coach.
Yeah. And Jerry Jones hadn't bought it yet, right?
No. I mean, this is 84. So Flair's in control now. He's doing that knee drop like he does it.
Yep.
I think Kerry's fixing to throw a drop kick. No, not yet.
David Manning is dressed like he's in the Cincinnati Bearcats marching band.
I've tried. I went to a show one time with the Adidas pants with the 3 white stripes, and I'll never do it again. Promoter didn't like it either.
I would have thought yellow if he was the yellow rose. I mean, like the red and black are very contrasting.
Now here, watch this drop kick. Watch this drop kick. Boom. How is that? I mean, Kerry just gets it up there. How impressive is Kerry? How impressive is Kerry's body? The man is genuinely shaped like a yield sign.
You know, when I think of body guys, I think of him.
And look at that abdominal stretch.
And I think of Rick Rude. Just absolutely
definitely
ripped, you know.
Butch Reed matched up really well with him as well.
Yeah.
They did a lot of strength things. They were supposed to have a match one time where they were going
Tony
to have arm wrestling
Tony
match.
Atlas was no slouch either.
Oh, yeah. They were going to do an arm wrestling match with Butch Reed and Kerry Von Erich, and they were going to put scorpions on the table, so whoever lost got stoned. And that was
Zac Efron, he's looking pretty good for the
he's taking that role serious.
Iron Claw.
They're taking that role serious
today.
Look at Flair selling that knee to the head 2 times. And
I am very excited to check out that movie. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, they are doing a full-fledged movie about the Von Erichs.
Called Iron Claw.
Called Iron Claw, and Zac Efron, I believe.
Okay, guys, here we go.
Will be playing Kevin Von Erich.
He's got the claw.
Yeah. There it is.
And that's a big budget movie if you got Zac Efron playing Kevin Von Erich.
Yeah, in our group chat today, we saw a picture of Zac Efron, and he has put on some muscle mass for that movie.
He has. I mean, amazing.
Manning's going to warn him about make sure it's not a low blow.
Flair's selling it. Oh, there he goes.
Snapmare.
Flair going up to the top. We know this is never a great idea.
But yet, maybe this time, he thinks, right?
If at first you don't succeed, keep on sucking till you do succeed.
Oh.
And there he goes. Imagine that.
Flair, just the way he shook his head no, and he tried to puss out of everything, and with his hair flopping back and forth. It was just such a great visual.
I keep waiting for Flair to go with the eyes.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And then Flair, the knee to the gut again. That chop, man, and you can hear those chops when you listen with the sound up. It's.
How old is David Manning here? He looks pretty young here.
And David Manning he couldn't have been more than 30 there.
Yeah.
No, he had to be in his 20s. This is 84, so almost 40 years ago.
83, right? Isn't it 83?
This is 84.
No, it's 84.
Oh, and here we go.
There it is. Backslide. And there's 3.
And we're all like, because we can't believe it. We expected Flair to kick out because we didn't think the match was going to end with a backslide for sure.
Mm-hmm.
No kidding.
And we kept waiting. Did he do it? Did he do it? And I mean, it was just.
The crowd is losing their proverbial shit right here.
I got goosebumps.
People are jumping up and down. Here comes Kevin and Mike and
Chris.
Any of the other illegitimate Von Erichs. Come on.
Chris wanted it more than any of them. But asthma stunted his growth.
Yeah.
And didn't he have some kind of bone disease?
No, he had asthma, and it's just all the medicine made his bones brittle.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what I was thinking, because he was like, even when he did do his one match or whatever, like he broke a bone.
Broke both of his arms.
Both of his arms? Okay.
Flair selling it like he is super pissed. And now, Dave, how long did he have this before they flipped it back on Flair?
18 days.
That's what I thought. I knew it wasn't very long.
So was that already? I mean, I know it was planned, but like, it was the match was in Japan.
Yes.
So like,
Flair says World Class told us they screwed Flair out. They screwed Kerry out of the belt in Japan. That was the official story.
Mm.
David Manning said Kerry was supposed to have it longer.
Mm.
Flair has said that Kerry was supposed to have it longer because Flair was going on vacation, and they told him he was going to go get it back in Japan. My theory, because Rick said that Rick had said on a podcast that he thought Kerry might have missed a shot, so they had to get it off of him.
Mm.
You can look, and I should have had the notes up but I didn't think we'd talk about his reign. But Kerry defended the title 18 times.
In 18 days.
He was champion for 18 days.
Yeah.
Now he didn't defend it every day.
No, but you did those 2-a-days or whatever.
There was some 2-a-days.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering. Now, sure, maybe he was unreliable as champion. They had to get it off of him. I don't know.
Who did he defend the belt against in 18 days? Like, was he like
Superstar Graham?
Okay.
Mike Rotundo?
So he was sit out immediately.
Terry
all
Gordy.
the different.
Ric Flair got a rematch in Texas, I believe.
Within the 18 days?
Yes.
And so he didn't win that one, but went to Japan and had, I guess, like you said, maybe called an audible in Japan.
I think, he defended against Jumbo Tsuruta in a vicious match. You can find it on YouTube. Man, the crowd was just incredible. When I just glanced back over and I can remember Kerry doing all this and wrapping the belt up in the flag. And
yeah,
this was a big deal, y'all, because the NWA Championship did not change hands every day.
Right.
So the fact that if you were that I was in the crowd and I got to witness the NWA World Title changing hands, and I'm gonna tell you, when I saw Cody Rhodes win it from Nick Aldis in Chicago, it was a big deal then too.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Not like this.
I tell you, I think you think Kerry is tired right now. Wait till he gets back to the hotel room tonight, and there's about 18 rats waiting on him to the house.
Following them out. Did you?
This wasn't far from his house, so there wasn't no hotel.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's his mama.
Yeah, and there's Fritz.
Now watch, Kerry's gonna have blood on his back after this.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he doesn't have it on there now.
He has a little bit. Ooh.
There it
Ew,
is.
somebody wiped that on him. Oh.
I don't know who just wiped the blood on him.
Yeah, that's weird.
I think someone, I mean.
It might have been Kevin. Kevin may have still been bleeding from the Bad Street match earlier on this card.
You think he
Because
just felt like,
Kerry, Mike, and Fritz took on the Freebirds in a Bad Street match, and that was a great match. We need to go out of our way to watch that one time. So I'm gonna stop it.
Do you have a Michael Hayes little bag that he wears? One of those fanny packs?
The ones that say "do."
Yeah,
I do have one.
See, there we go. That's show and tell. We can watch that.
Yeah,
match.
I got a funny story about that, about ordering that fanny pack too. I got a real funny story about, because Bruce was still calling you when you ordered merch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I got a funny story about the fanny pack. So we'll circle back to that when we.
You got to wear the fanny pack.
We're not going to waste show and tell on the fanny pack, but I'll bring the fanny pack out on a future episode. But back to what I was saying about Kerry defending the title. Here's my theory. Flair thinks he missed a shot, and that's why they took the belt off of him so quick. And I never believed that he was supposed to be champion for longer than that. Never until last year. Because Flair finally, not in front of anybody, in the green room, in private. As private as the green room was, he was entertaining the crowd in the green room.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't even, it was at one of the events, and he was there visiting Conrad, but he was talking. So he said that Kerry was supposed to be champion I think he said 6 months. But he had to go to Japan to get it off of him. Now, I'm wondering when Kerry, I don't think Kerry missed a shot because Pro Wrestling Illustrated has his schedule. You know, his 18 days on top of the world. Where did he miss the shot? I mean, where could he have possibly missed it at?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if when he went to Florida, because they still voted for the NWA champion at the time, and I'm betting Eddie Graham wasn't a fan of Kerry Von Erich being champion. I'm just betting that Eddie Graham, I don't know that. I know Eddie Graham was pushing for Dusty.
Right.
Fritz was pushing for one of his boys.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys have their own baby
this was
faces.
a gimme. This was a gimme for David.
Right.
Kerry Von Erich was never going to be world champion. David probably would. David could work face. David could work heel. David could talk on the mic. David was believable. He could be a bad guy. He could be a good guy. If you go find Kerry Von Erich when he went down to help David in Florida and be a heel, Kerry Von Erich is probably the worst heel in history. I mean, he just was not a heel. He was.
I've never seen that his heel work.
I mean, he's so likable. I mean, he's just such a nice, likable guy. So I'm thinking that Kerry went to Florida and did not draw as an NWA champion.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Eddie Graham threw up the red flag and said, hey, guys, I just had the NWA champion in here. And this is what I'm used to. And this is what we did.
Right.
Because I believe that Ric Flair was the draw. I believe Harley Race could draw.
But Kerry's not going to go in there and draw because, A, he's not going to fight Dusty Rhodes in Florida. So you missed that opportunity where you could have Rick and Dusty fight.
He was fighting Ron Bass. He was fighting Superstar Graham. And he fought Mike Rotundo. And Mike Rotundo, IRS.
What about Butch Reed?
Praise Daddy for you kids. Mike Rotundo was a face. So it was face versus face.
What about Butch Reed? I heard a rumor he was over in Florida.
Very over in Florida. And also very over in this with this crowd because he was in the I believe Butch Reed he was in the opening match on this show.
Oh, okay.
This particular episode. Thank you for asking Chick Donovan.
Chick Donovan.
Chick Donovan was the big blonde, the muscular blonde guy that came out to congratulate Kerry.
Well, speaking of chicks, Amy, what do you think about that match and that whole thing there that we just watched?
Well, I think that it's really interesting looking at it now because obviously there's so much history of the Von Erichs and you know so much. And again, you look at all those people cheering and the brothers coming out hugging Kerry. You know, they literally just lost their brother, 4 months ago. And they'd already lost a younger brother. Some of them probably didn't know him. You know, the first Von Erich died. He was like 6 or 7, right? And he was electrocuted. And so...
our first hearing of that was when they talked about David dying on the news, that just because a reporter would mention that this isn't the first child that the Von Erichs had lost. It wasn't common knowledge to me as a fan.
Sure.
But I mean, his funeral, David's funeral, it was packed. I mean, they were outside the church with speakers so the crowd could hear. I mean, I skipped school. Me and my girlfriend skipped school and went to the funeral in Denton, Texas. From driving from where I was, it was over an hour to drive up there.
I bet people probably thought the Von Erichs were part of their family. I mean, in that area, and like you said,
they were
cheering them on. Yeah.
I mean, they were. I mean, it was hard to describe. I mean, the reception that these boys got. I mean, that many people showed up for the memorial show.
Mm-hmm.
They were selling out Reunion Arena.
And how old was David? Like 24?
David was 25 years old.
25 when he died, suddenly. I mean, I'm sure that just, rocked that community because they see them and they are wrestling fans. So they probably felt like they were friends with the Von Erichs and they knew them.
They watched them boys grow up on television.
Exactly. It's like whenever you see kids growing up in your church, it's like, I'm sure that they just, I'm sure it was probably very emotional for a lot of people when he passed and when Kerry won. So I didn't think the match was super great. It was actually like PWI's match of the year.
That was
For
not a good. That was not a good Kerry Von Erich Ric Flair match. And I've said it. I've said it before, and I'm gonna say it on this show. I don't think that Kerry Von Erich and Ric Flair matched up as well as Kerry Von Erich and Harley Race. I think Kerry had better matches against Harley Race. I think David Von Erich had better matches against Ric Flair.
Right.
I mean, and this was David's. They all had their turns. I mean, my fandom started in '82, and it was Kerry versus Flair. I mean, they all built up. Kerry had a bounty put on him by Flair. And then Kerry finished, Flair finally, the Von Erich Freebird feud started, so Kerry's feud with Flair was over with. And then Kevin got a shot at Flair in April of '83. And then that ended. Flair got escaped with the title. Kevin got disqualified because Flair had already thrown him over the top rope. Kevin threw him over the top rope, and Bronco was on the floor and saw Flair come over the top rope. Reversed the decision. It was a dusty finish. Everybody thought Kevin was champion. They reversed the call. So Kevin was going on to the next Star Wars event at Reunion against Flair. And they get to the arena. Flair's not champion anymore. He lost to Harley Race. You didn't find out till you got there because back then we didn't have the internet. Harley Race had won the championship a couple days prior, stepped into Flair's schedule. So we had Kevin, and so then after that, we started David's pursuit. David was getting through with gorgeous Jimmy Garvin. David was chasing Flair. David was fighting Flair in Missouri. I think Flair actually beat David for the Missouri Championship. And then he had just dropped the Missouri Championship before he got the belt back. Because used to that was a stepping stone to being the NWA champion, was being the Missouri champion. So
I remember you saying that.
So that David had started his program with Flair, and we had Flair kept getting disqualified. So then the whole deal with Mike sets up. David is getting his shot. We're gonna, he's gonna get his. This is it. David's finally gonna get Flair. We're gonna get that. He's not gonna be able to get disqualified. There's no way he's gonna beat David. We're gonna finally see he's got him nailed down. And then David died.
How did you find out? How did you find out David died?
On the news, local news.
It was on the news.
Oh yeah.
Sure, it was on the front page of the paper the next morning.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I've got lots of newspaper clippings in my. I graduated high school '84, and so my senior memory book has a lot of newspaper cutouts. And I actually bought a scrapbook from a fan on eBay a few years ago. And there's they did a really good job. It's much better than the way I preserved it in my senior book. But that's so Kerry stepped into the David role.
Right.
And we know that Crockett was locking it all down, and Fritz wasn't going to get, Fritz was growing frustrated with the NWA. And that's when they pulled out and started the World Class Wrestling Association. And the first year that Ric Flair did not come to Dallas for Christmas, it was the Von Erichs versus the Freebirds. And there was probably about 6,000 people there.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I'd been to a Star Wars at Reunion Arena that they weren't hanging from the rafters. And this wasn't a deal back when, I just saw, they did a pay-per-view, just covered a pay-per-view, Hell in a Cell from Dallas at the American Airlines Center. Like 12,000 tickets sold. But the WWE has to block off half the arena.
Right. For
their presentation. The Von Erichs weren't blocking off nothing at Reunion Arena. I mean, they were putting a ring in the middle. They were walking out of it. They were walking out of that tunnel. And I mean, there wasn't not a whole lot of fancy. There wasn't a whole lot of fancy at Texas Stadium. They put the ring out there and they brought them out the tunnel.
And rolled out some string to keep people back.
I mean, there's lots of asses every 18 inches.
Well, I know for me, it's kind of cool to go back and watch this stuff, and I hope for everyone listening that's a little younger, I hope you can get some enjoyment out of this. For myself, first time I remember seeing Kerry Von Erich, of course, was the Texas Tornado on WWE TV on Saturday mornings up here in Southern Ohio. And so it's very cool for me to go back and watch some stuff that I missed before I started watching. And we certainly appreciate Dave's knowledge, which is unbelievable, WCCW. Um, and we would like to
Knowledge
thank
is just a cute way of saying he's old, but he can remember the stuff
that.
that he went to.
Yes, he can
He
remember.
was old. He's old, but he had a good job as a kid, so he could afford to go to. He got to go to some cool events.
That's right. And we hope you're going to get to listen to some cool shows in the future, as we're going to be here each and every week doing the Pondwater Dave show here with Super Dave, Pondwater Dave, whatever you want to call him, the official counter of the Ric Flair last match. I would like to say thank you for being here, Miss Amy Vaughn. We appreciate having you as always in Pondwater. I'm looking forward to this adventure, and it should be fun. And from here in Huntington, West Virginia, this is the Pond